In today's video, we'll cover essential information about AZ-104 Microsoft Azure Administrator and share a free practice test to help you assess your knowledge. Audience Profile. Skills measured. Preparation tips. One. You need to recommend a solution to automate the configuration for the finance department users. The solution must meet the technical requirements. What should you include in the recommended? A. Azure APB2C. B. Azure AD Identity Protection. C. An Azure Logic App and the Microsoft Identity Management (MIM) client. D. Dynamic Groups and Conditional Access Policies. Check for the correct answers. 2. You need to prepare the environment to meet the authentication requirements. Which two actions should you perform? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Azure Active Directory. Add identity protection and an Azure policy. B. A recovery services vault and a backup policy. C. An Azure Key Vault and an access policy. D. An Azure storage account and an access policy. Check for the correct answers. 3. You need to resolve the Active Directory issue. What should you do? A. From Active Directory users and computers, select the user accounts, and then modify the user principal name value. B. Run itfix.x, and then use the edit action. C. From Active Directory domains and trusts, modify the list of UPN suffixes. D. From Azure AD Connect, modify the outbound synchronization rule. Check for the correct answers. 4. You need to move the blueprint files to Azure. What should you do? A. Generate a shared access signature, SAS. Map a drive, and then copy the files by using File Explorer. B. Use the Azure Import/Export service. C. Generate an access key. Map a drive, and then copy the files by using File Explorer. D. Use Azure Storage Explorer to copy the files. Check for the correct answers. 5. You need to recommend an identify solution that meets the technical requirements. What should you recommend? A. Federated Single on SSO and Active Directory Federation Services, ADFS. B. Password hash synchronization and single sign-on, SSO. C. Cloud-only user accounts. D. Pass-through authentication and single sign-on, SSO. Check for the correct answers. 6. You have a recovery service vault that you use to test backups. The test backups contain 2 protected virtual machines. You need to delete the recovery services vault. What should you do first? A. From the recovery service vault, stop the backup of each backup item, B. From the Recovery Service Vault, delete the backup data. C. Modify the disaster recovery properties of each virtual machine. D. Modify the locks of each virtual machine. Check for the correct answers. 7. You have an Azure subscription that contains a user named User1. You need to ensure that User1 can deploy virtual machines and manage virtual networks. The solution must use the principle of least privilege. Which role-based access control, RBAC, role should you assign to User1? A. Owner. B. Virtual Machine Administrator Login. C. Contributor. D. Virtual Machine Contributor. Check for the correct answers. 8. You have an Azure App Services web app named App1. You plan to deploy App1 by using Web Deploy. You need to ensure that the developers of App1 can use their Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, credentials to deploy content to App1. The solution must use the principle of least privilege. What should you do? A. Configure app-level credentials for FTPS. B. Assign the website contributor role to the developers. C. Assign the owner role to the developers. D. Configure user-level credentials for FTPS. Check for the correct answers. 9. You have an Azure subscription that contains an Azure SQL database named DB1. You plan to use Azure Monitor to monitor the performance of DB1. You must be able to run queries to analyze log data. Which destination should you configure in the diagnostic settings of DB1? A. Send to a log analytics workspace. B. Archive to a storage account. C. Stream to an Azure Event Hub. Check for the correct answers. 10. You have two Azure virtual networks named VNet1 and VNet2. VNet1 contains an Azure virtual machine named VM1. VNet2 contains an Azure virtual machine named VM2. VM1 hosts a front-end application that connects to VM2 to retrieve data. Users report that the front-end application is slower than usual. You need to view the average round-trip time, RTT, of the packets from VM1 to VM2. Which Azure Network Watcher feature should you use? A. NSG Flow Logs. B. Connection Troubleshoot. C. IP Flow Verify. D. Connection Monitor. Check for the correct answers. Subscribe, seek exams and practice more free questions.